Coming up, Disney theme park announcements that didn't happen. Welcome to the SeeWDW Near and Far podcast, where we explore perspectives of the Walt Disney World Resort from 10 to 1,000 miles away. I am Mike the Far in this equation.
And I'm John the Near.
All right, this week, John, we are going to talk about these pesky Disney theme park announcements that never happened. You know, the announcements that you see at what is it, D33, right? Or D23 that everyone claps and they get up and they're passing out in the aisles and they're like, oh, you know, and it's like going to a church on Sunday that gets really excited, you know, and they're just running up and down the aisles and
I think that's closer than you know to reality.
I think it is.
I've already gone standing in for a media invite where they took us to the AMC theater at Disney Springs, and we got to watch a live stream of D23. I forget what year it was. It was whatever year they announced all the Epcot stuff that fell apart. So. But they announced Target. I remember because they gave me a little gift bag that had like a Target gift card.
I remember that. Yeah.
Like that. So yeah, Disney and Target. I remember that was a big thing, and it's weird because really the only people going there are the cast members who live in the apartments right next door. It's not really big for guests, you know. Did you ever go to Target at Disney World?
No, I didn't. You're talking about the Flamingo Crossings one, or is that the one? No.
And it's even driven down. So again, that really wasn't that big of an announcement either, huh? Like, if a normal guest like you, who sometimes does have your car there, you've never actually gone to it. That's weird, you know.
I mean, it's like an announcement that was made for cast members, I guess. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is nice that it's there.
Yeah,
I don't think it really impacts guests all that much. It's an odd D23 announcement. They made it sound like a Target would be like in the parking lot at the TTC or something.
I remember.
Hold on before I get on the monorail. I'm going to run in Target with sunscreen. It's like not like that. You need to have a car to get there or get a car service or something. They don't. You're not going to see the Target. So yeah, that's funny. I just thought of that one.
That's interesting. I didn't remember you talking about that, but I have heard of other people going to that particular event you're talking about, and I remember them saying exactly what you said about the Target in the parking lot concept, or and some people were speculating that Target was going to end up taking over the the mercantile or whatever, and because Starbucks took over the, everything else, and on the other side of the street. So I don't know. I think people were a little worried about that at the time.
But. And the Target in Kissimmee always had a huge Disney section in there, meaning Disney shirts and hats and all kinds of fun
I've been
stuff.
to that one, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. The one in Kissimmee is big. The one they put in, it's a very small Target. It has a small food section. It's like a miniature Target, and there's really not much if any Disney merch in there at all. I haven't been there in a while, but it used to be between my house and the park, so I would drive by it a lot. So, we'd stop on the way back from the parks once in a while. When we needed something from Target, it was convenient. But again, it wasn't the kind of Target. Nothing like the one that's off of 192 in Kissimmee. Nothing like that.
Yeah, I think they put those little ones, those small ones in like places like that, for convenience. And they put
Yeah.
them in colleges, like around colleges
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff
No, a
too.
lot of the cast members don't drive, and when they first opened the housing complex, their parking lot was full of construction vehicles and stuff when they opened it, and it was hard to get a car authorized to be there for a while too. So there's a lot of buses going in and out of there, and I remember there's a lot of foot traffic going from the apartments over to Target a lot too. So
Mm.
again,
Yeah.
that's a real bustling area now, where before it was literally, it used to be, I remember driving there and it was just empty road and you just drive up the highway. And now, as you get close to it, the traffic's backed up. There's buses in and out and
Mm.
restaurants. But again, it's not really for guests though, which is the weird thing. Because I just saw more restaurants or something like announced for Flamingo Springs, but Disney doesn't run any buses to Flamingo Springs, so I don't know how that really affects guests. So,
I
I
have
don't
no
know.
idea.
Anyway,
That's
sorry,
interesting.
I already
Oh
went off.
no. I mean, this is great. This will help get Target as a sponsor of our podcast, right? I mean, someday, maybe.
No, I'm not in their demographic they're looking for. So unfortunately,
I'm really
I
not either, I think. I don't even have
I
a Target within 30, 40 miles of me, so,
I don't, now that I live in Mineola, Target's the least convenient place for me to go out of like the normal stores. So I
Yeah.
haven't been there in a long time. I used to go there almost every week when I lived in Kissimmee and Claremont. So, but now, no. And nothing against Target. I like them, but
Yeah, that's all right.
just
You know.
I don't like driving much. So
Yeah.
if Walmart is closer or Publix, I tend to just go there. It's closer.
Yeah. Same way. All right. So today, why we would talk about this, I think it shows the possibilities of what could have been, right? A lot of the things that we're going to talk about, it shows some creativity that was actually, that, somebody had. And this is, we're going to be jumping around in different eras and different things, but, somebody had some creativity. Why was that creativity stifled? I mean, there's different reasons why that happens, Accountants in the modern era, that has a lot to do with it, the money. And, that, what were you going to
Well,
say, John?
I just wanted to do this though too, just to give perspective to everybody that, like you said, the D23, all the announcements and stuff over the years since I've been here, I paid more attention to them because I was more involved with the parks and everything. And again, it didn't take me long at all to learn that the announced projects, it really doesn't mean a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
It means they'd like to do it, probably, maybe, if things work out, probably. But the way they do it, though, look, Dick Van Dyke, we're definitely doing it. Jump up and down and clap. It's like, yeah, I don't know. And again, we'll get into it, but
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
Epcot stuff, they'll say, oh, it was COVID. It's like, well, the parks have been making record profits, and you didn't bring any of these projects back, and now you're on to other things. So again, I don't, I that's not an excuse at this point.
Yeah, that's the COVID excuse was often an excuse for a lot of policies that changed. And I think part of that was scaling back that Epcot project a little bit. I think they got, you know, they got the concept was so huge for what they wanted to do, and there really wasn't that much buzz around the changes. I mean, it wasn't like people were cheering, a lot of the stuff. But of course, the stuff that guys like you and I would the things that you and I would like say the play pavilion. For me, my family and stuff. That's we'll get into play. We'll get into that.
Yeah,
But
we
I
better
mean,
start at the beginning.
yeah, well, let's start. I just wanted to say sometimes large projects are canceled due to the reality on the ground, and we'll see that too, particularly with the theme parks. the theme park plans. So let's get into the canceled theme parks. And this is something that a lot of people maybe in the modern context don't even realize happened, some of this. But the first one I have down is Westcott, which was was a planned theme park in California. And basically it was just going to be a West Coast version of Epcot Center. And you're talking that this was announced in 1991, and it was going to be on the site of a Disneyland parking lot. And basically the site, California Adventure's there now. But they were even going to do a Spaceship Earth-like ride that was bigger. The entire building was going, or geodesic sphere was going to be bigger than the one that we had at Epcot. So, the issues that caused this not to happen, a lot of it had to do with the local communities. They really didn't want it. It required a significant land acquisition, and they always have problems out there with businesses, local residents, the varying governments and things like that are involved. But it's an interesting concept, John. They were basically going to do another Epcot. It was going to have the countries. It was going to, have the big, project in the center. And right there it is, another like Spaceship Earth. And they actually called their version Space Station Earth. And I'm not really sure. Like, I've never read into what the concept for the ride was, but it was probably going to be very similar to what Spaceship Earth is. But again, it got canceled just due to all the problems. The land prices started to skyrocket because people got wind of, potential acquisition from the Disney company. So they raise their prices. That's what happens anytime Disney gets involved in this stuff. But man, that thing looks massive, doesn't it?
I've heard a lot of complaints from West Coast people that are real salty about they never got their Westcott, because, and again, I don't know why Disney just gave up on this whole idea and feel. Again, I feel like they basically gave up on Epcot now, like if they could get rid of the Spaceship Earth, I feel like they would. They'd be like, yeah, put in Moana. I don't know. Like they'd get rid of it. But again, it's too hard to do. When you look at the concept art for Westcott, it looks like one of the coolest places ever.
Agreed.
And I really feel like they made a mistake by not continuing down that path, instead deciding, because the Magic Kingdom is the most popular park. Let's just make it kind of like that, and just put that in there. So again, I've never been to Disneyland, but wow, the concept art looks amazing. And I'd be mad too if I almost had Westcott.
Yeah, that picture that you have up right there, it even has the water, the lake and everything. And it would have been really interesting to see how they did this out there with the limited space that they had. But it looked like it was really ambitious. So
I see the pyramids and what looks like a Roman part. Now that's something we don't have at Epcot. That would be really cool. See, that would be amazing. Cool. I love Egyptian stuff and ancient Rome. Just that would be.
It even looks like the monorail went right through it, like it does at Epcot, and that's just really cool. It would have been a neat concept.
But again, it was announced, though, right? They're going to do it, and then again, so when Disney comes up with their next big announcement of what's behind Big Thunder Mountain or whatever, there's no, like, they really had Westcott planned out well, and they announced it and everything, and then they were like, nah, we're not going to do it. So again, and eventually they did California Adventure. So wow.
Yeah, which that's exactly when it opened. That's kind of how people felt, right?
Wow,
I
All
think
those
it's
soaring was
improved.
there. That was good.
Well, I think it's improved over the years. Like people actually there is like a fan base for the park now over time, and that happens I think a lot of times to underwhelming parks and things like that. If you have enough money to survive the initial, disappointment. Disney fortunately did. And again, I mean, I look at California Adventure Park and there's a lot of things I'd love to do out there, but Westcott looked like to me at a destination,
Yeah,
something
and
that no one else had.
I actually watched some stuff on this before, and yeah, the concept that they had these almost like fishbowl type environments around stuff too. This was one concept for it, and I thought that was just amazing too. Like, and if you think to yourself, well, this isn't possible, my I work in Washington State, and I've been walking around Seattle already, and I look over and I see something that looks just like a biosphere. And it's like, what in the heck is that? Oh, it's Amazon headquarters. It's like they literally made a giant glass fishbowl dome. And how they make it, I don't know. It's an amazing building, and walking past it, it doesn't even look real. So, again, it can be done. So that, because a lot of people will say that, like, oh, well, you can't really build these domes. Like, it's like Amazon built one just because it looked cool, and they wanted to do it in Seattle. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, John. So the next thing that I have on the list is Disney's America. Now, this one is a little obscure. Some people don't remember it. Some people don't know it. But they were going to build a theme park in Virginia. This was announced. They filed for permits and all kinds of things. They were trying to get this built. Disney's America was a proposed theme park in the United States that was to have been built by the Walt Disney Company in Haymarket, Virginia in the early 1990s. Now, I don't know if you know what Haymarket, Virginia is, but that's where the Battle of Manassas happened in the Civil War. And so that was part of the issue. Again, residents they were upset. College professors from different places, different universities were upset. There was a big lobbying effort to really make this not happen. And they even went to the to DC to try and stop this from happening. What really is fascinating about this is, and I really like this concept a lot. This is right up my alley. It is, there were a lot of themed lands that were based on the history of America. And that is exactly what they were going to do with this. It was going to have not an exact history, but like a Disneyfied, more or less, version of history, kind of like, say, the American Adventure. But they actually had roller coasters, they had transportation, they had theme park rides. So it wasn't just like an educated animatronic thing. There were actual rides with theme, there was themes and lands and different eras, but it was built around the concept of American history, which was something that Walt actually loved.
I'll bet a big part of the opposition was, I think Anheuser-Busch owned Busch Gardens at the time. And they probably, were very close with the local politicians and said, we can't have this. This is not good for anybody. And because, and then Williamsburg too. It's like, it's like building a Williamsburg that's not William. It's like, but again, I think it looks really interesting. Like, imagine rebuilding it to look old like that. I think it would be an amazing place to see. But
I think it looks cool.
I hear bad things about that United States, though. It's a controversial topic. I don't think we should do anything with them.
Oh man!
Those people.
They were. It was going to be between 125 and 185 acres. It would have had hotels, housing, a golf course and nearly 2 million square feet of retail and commercial development. It had 9 themed areas. 9 themed areas that thing had. Now, granted, I'm a fan of history, but 5 miles away from there is where the Manassas Battlefield Park is, the national park. And, I think that had something to do with it as to why, some people, they use that as the reason why they did not want this park. They thought it would be tacky and disrespectful, I believe. I don't think it would have been. I mean, looking at the concept, it looked very respectful.
Do it now. They just say, we'll erase that battle. It never even happened.
Yeah, they would. They would never in a million years. This would never even be making it to the boardroom. This thing nowadays
makes me uncomfortable. Let's erase it.
I really have felt like when I first heard of this thing, I was like, oh my gosh, that would have been, like 4 hours away from me, and it would have been awesome.
I have to say that my initial thought was, I'm not that excited about it. It doesn't seem like it's that great. But when I look at some of this concept, I'm like, wow, that it looks like it would have been like going right into a painting of the old world. So I think that would have been a worthwhile, extremely memorable experience. And again, at the time when Westcott was announced, at the time when Disney's America was announced, I really liked the way they were making parks. They had a lot of very creative people in there that seemed they could make anything work. So I'm sure it would have been another extremely good addition. So
I completely agree. And that was in that era. This was the 1990s. The project was eventually canceled in 1994. And again, this is that Eisner era. I just feel like it with 9 themed areas, a lot of them were based on different eras in American history. So it really would have went up through, our countries, the decades that our country was around. And I think it would have been fun. All right. The next one is Disney's Riverfront Square. This is one that I was not actually aware of until I did research. So this was something that was a concept for the late 1960s. So obviously not at one of the shows that we may see on YouTube where these were announced. This was announced, but Disney was looking to build an indoor theme park and shopping center in St. Louis, Missouri in the late 60s. It was a joint venture between Disney and a St. Louis-based company, the May Department Store Company. It was going to be a 70-acre site in downtown St. Louis and was to feature attractions such as a boat ride through an indoor rainforest. Don't we kind of have something like that with Living with the Land?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Also, it had a roller coaster and a dark ride themed to the Mississippi River. The shopping center portion of the project was to include over 100 stores and restaurants. The project was ultimately canceled due to financing difficulties, disputes between Disney and the other company, the store retailer, over the design concept of the project. There were also concerns over the safety of the roller coaster, and the site of the proposed park was eventually developed into the Gateway Arch National Park. So think about that when you see the Gateway Arch. Originally, that was going to be a Disney park.
I'm sure St. Louis is quite happy that they went that route.
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe.
I honestly don't know either. I do know somebody who recently went and rode. I guess it's like an elevator.
That goes up in there.
So. Yeah. And again, they said it was very interesting. But again, you have this is a 15-minute stop off where before it would have been the whole thing. I don't know. In the 60s, I'm quite certain it would have been pretty awesome too.
It would, I'm sure it would have been. You know, if you think about a dark ride themed to the Mississippi River, that would have been really cool, I think.
Yeah, well, you know how it goes. I'm sure
Yeah.
they all told Walt, you can't do that. It's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I don't know. Walt, I don't know. I think it probably was due to the resistance from the retailer as to some of those concepts as to why it was canceled in the end. But still, it's interesting. It was announced and people were probably looking forward to it. And once again,
if you're in the middle of the country, yeah, you sure did that would have been a great
That would have been cool. Yeah. All right, so we're going to go on to canceled resorts. And John, I am going to kind of do 3 of these resorts together because they had the concept and they were canceled at about the same time. These resorts were the Disney Persian Resort, the Disney Venetian Resort, and the Disney Asian Resort. And you have a lot of them up there right now on your screen. And so these were going to be in a combination of on Bay Lake and on the Seven Seas Lagoon. These resorts were Walt Disney World, obviously. They were some of the original hotels that were going to be built. The Asian resort is actually on the site where the Grand Floridian is right now. The Persian resort was going to be where the Contemporary is right now. And the Venetian resort was going to be just north of the Contemporary, where the Contemporary is now on the Seven Seas Lagoon, the next lake over, where the Wilderness Lodge is. Not where the Wilderness Lodge is, but the same lake that the Wilderness Lodge is located on. Interestingly enough, the Venetian resort was going to have it was a 500 room resort with canals and gondolas. I mean, looking at the theming of these resorts and what you have up on the screen, my research, these things were going to be fully themed and they were really interesting concepts. It's a shame in my mind that they got canceled because the theming itself was going to be like things that we don't have here in the US, you know, like
that's exactly why I used to like the Polynesians so much. It literally, I've been to Hawaii and I'm like, this feels like Hawaii. It has the same feel. So again, I thought that was really cool. And again, back when they were talking about these, they all would have been so authentic and so well done. It would have been amazing.
I totally agree. The reason that they all were canceled and they all were canceled at the same time was because of the oil crisis in the early to late 70s. The embargo and the oil crisis itself sent that economy into a tailspin. So Disney they didn't do any building of massive hotels or anything like that. So that's really, and interestingly enough, that's why Disney didn't have very many resorts. I mean, they basically had the Polynesian and the Contemporary for many, many years until the 80s. The third resort ended up being the Grand Floridian, I believe. So, I mean, those resorts, they had a whole plan in place for resorts around those lakes. And again, I think it's a shame that it never happened.
Yeah, it's amazing the things that they cancel. They seem to cancel a lot of amazing stuff, and you know, other things don't get canceled, and you wonder, like, I know we talked about it last week, I think, but like Mission Space, it's like, oh, definitely don't cancel that one. It's like, great.
Right. I just looking at the screen that you have up though. I mean, look at the design elements and everything. Dang.
Yeah, I wish I could see these things built. And again, they still look so unique, you know. And I know that, you know, this style here, it do a lot of that in the United States with the domed roofs and things like that. But
Yeah.
I did work on projects before. I believe there are places where Hindu Americans live, and again they have temples and stuff, and they look similar to this. And yeah, I've been there already inside a real temple built like that in the United States, and it's just amazing. I'm sure Disney would have had a massive version of that, like even the one we're looking at. That's the top of it. It's just amazing.
It is cool. It's a great design.
And again, like they're doing a new DVC at the Polynesian. It looks like any design, like literally no.
Yeah, it looks like a Soviet. It's like an old Soviet or North Korean apartment building. I mean.
Yeah, and again, look what they used to come up with. They were like, let's make something that no one will see anywhere else in the world, and now they're like, here's a regular hotel, $800 a night.
Yeah.
Here, give me. It's like, I don't know. I wouldn't do it.
I completely agree. Speaking of hotels and the DVC hotel that they're building, the reason why they're building it is because they canceled Reflections, a Disney Lakeside Lodge, which was a planned Disney Vacation Club resort at Walt Disney World that was, it says in my research, Bay Lake. I believe that's where it was going to be, right? Bay Lake. It was going to be Bay Lake, I believe.
Well, it's going to be where Water Country is.
Yeah, that's right. So that
Bay Lake was right in front, and then whatever that other lake is right next to it. I'm pretty sure Bay Lake is the one that connects the Polynesian and Magic Kingdom and the Grand Floridian. Okay. And the other one, or no, that would be Seven Seas Lagoon. That was
Seven Seas Lagoon. Right. Bay Lake is the other one. Yeah.
You're correct. Yeah,
so,
what am I thinking?
So Bay Lake, it was going to, have Reflections, this DVC lodge, and that thing was perfect. Was like a Bob Iger and Bob Chapek dream. It was going to be a new hotel to feature several Disney characters for each of the rooms, including Bambi, Brother Bear, the Fox and the Hound, and Pocahontas, among others. Yeah. Now, to me, John, and again, it was going to be where the former Disney River Country Water Park was. To me, the theming of those rooms, though, Disney does so little theming with Bambi, Brother Bear, Fox and the Hound. When I was growing up, I loved Fox and the Hound and Bambi. But again, another IP-driven property that they had planned here. And with that said, looking at the design of the lodge compared to what they're building at the Polynesian to replace this canceled project, I would have taken Reflections any day of the week. I don't think it, I think Reflections of Lakeside Lodge looks better than what it looks like that Polynesian thing is going to be. So I don't know.
Well, and now they're getting rid of all the cabins and they're putting up, they look like fancy sheds or something. That's not. They're really Disney has, the eye of Sauron is focused on what do you call it? Not the campground, the Disney campground,
wilderness campground.
Wilderness campground. Yeah, they redid the horse ranch. They demolished Water Country. They're getting rid of Trails End, which was a favorite of all the people like in the know, like the best secret buffet and stuff. And now they're changing all the rustic cabins to look like modern shed type buildings of some sort.
Yeah, they kind of look like
Fort Wilderness or whatever it's called. That's the new focus.
Apparently.
And Fort Wilderness is one of the last places that had that really 1980s Disney feel. You could see the old train tracks were still there. I remember going there in 2017 and 18. They had the Mickey's Backyard Barbecue was still going on.
I went to it.
The Water Country sign was still there, and the ticket booth, and you could walk back and look a little, and you could just get a feel for what it must have been like there. Because as you drive around in the buses, you can see the campers are at their little, they have the pool in the certain areas. And I'm like, it just has such a feel to it. Like it feels like you go right back to the 1980s. And again, Disney doesn't like that. Their Las Vegas designers that they hired are like, this should look like the Strip in Vegas. And the other thing is too, I wanted to mention, speaking of the 80s, somebody that I follow recently stayed at the TWA Hotel in New York City, which looks like a 1980s TWA airport feel. And they were like, I never want to leave. It's so cool. And I'm like, man, Disney just demolished everything that felt like that over at Epcot. They were like, demolish it all. And now people are like, wow, the 80s, that's the thing, we got to get back. It's like Disney thinks, the early 2000s forgettable look. That's what people want. It's like that one person we asked that one time said it.
There's a lot of people doing some cool designs out there that are running circles around, around Disney's designs lately.
I forget what it is, but I feel like the hotel at Epic Universe is going to be really special. Like it isn't just the hotel. I don't remember it now. I got to get back to watching videos on that again. But when I remember hearing about the hotel, and I was like, wow, that is really cool. It's a hotel built right up into the theme park, so it overlooks it, But yeah. I think it's going to be very well themed too, and I forget what the theme is. I think the theme is like astrology or something, or maybe that's the theme of the Middle Land. And it's like space, or it's something special though. It's not just a hotel. It's not Marriott. It's going to be memorable. So. But anyway, to look into that sometime.
Very cool. All right. So we covered the canceled resorts. Let's move on to the theme park lands. And this is one that pretty much, most big Disney fans, they know this one. This is Beastly Kingdom. Beastly Kingdom was a proposed land for Disney's Animal Kingdom that would have featured mythological creatures or mythical creatures such as unicorns, dragons, and giants. The land was never built due to budget concerns and the fact that, quote, it was too ambitious, unquote. The land was originally conceived by Joe Rohde, the creative force behind Animal Kingdom. And Rohde wanted to create a land that would appeal to children's imaginations. He wanted to allow them to experience the magic of mythical creatures. He envisioned a land that would be divided into 3 sections. And I did not list those 3 sections because I think at some point maybe we should do a Beastly Kingdom podcast. But
there's enough information on that
there is, but it was and the thing is, a lot of the Imagineers took that concept when they were laid off or furloughed or whatever, or fired or just quit, and took it over and created a land across town called Islands of Adventure from Universal. They took a lot of the concepts and designs.
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah,
it is
beautifully done park. I love just the aesthetics of it. So,
yeah, I mean, there are some little Easter eggs or callbacks to Beastly Kingdom. The front entryway to Animal Kingdom, that where you kind of buy tickets or whatever. They have that dragon still up there on the one section. And there's some other stuff there too, from what I understand, John, like some things that used to be a part of the, they used to have that kind of riverboat ride or whatever in Animal Kingdom that you could take at one time. So
yeah, and heading over to Camp Minnie Mickey, they have the stone dragon head that stuck out. And again, that was going to be the Beastly Kingdom section where Avatar or Pandora is now.
Right.
And so, and that, I don't know if that's still there. I haven't looked at it. I imagine it is. There'd be no reason to take it out, but it could be getting overrun by plants if they're not cutting it back. But
yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people look at this concept and look at the fact that it was Rhodey that was behind it, and just, man, what could have been? What could have been, man?
Yeah, it's definitely looked like, from what most people say, it would have been the fan favorite part of Animal Kingdom. And I like Animal Kingdom a lot, but this would have been the highlight of it.
Mm-hmm.
So not the best thing to cut, but
I agree.
Happens a lot.
Yep. Speaking of things to cut, Arendelle World of Frozen was a proposed land for Epcot. Now, we know Arendelle World of Frozen is actually being made in one of the overseas parks. The concept apparently was originally for Epcot. I did not know this, and I totally forgot about it, but actually Bob Chapek announced this at one of the D23s. I think it was 2019, but I'm not sure. I did have that information. But he had announced that this was going to be located past the Norway Pavilion. It was going to include the current ride, Frozen Ever After. So they were going to split the Norway Pavilion, and where Frozen Ever After was going to be the beginning, I guess, of this land. So they were going to peel off the restaurant and everything. It was going to feature Frozen Ever After, the boat ride, an attraction called Wandering Oaken's Sliding Sleighs, which was going to be a family-friendly roller coaster. The land was also going to feature a number of shops and restaurants and other experiences, including Olaf's Snowfest, which was an interactive thing, a Kristoff's Troll Encounter, which was basically a meet and greet, and of course Anna and Elsa's Royal Welcome, which was a live show. So interesting, John. My kids would have loved this.
Yeah, I think it looks like it would have been great. It's not something that I'm that upset about, but if it's as pretty as what Hong Kong is going to look like, then
I mean,
it would have been worth it.
It does look pretty neat what they were going to do there. So it was supposed to, after the original announcement, they set a date for summer of 2023. So again, it was going to be between Norway and Germany and World Showcase. So basically, it was going to be an imaginary land.
I think that announcement came and went quick because I never even heard of it. So he must have retracted it on the way out of the.
Yeah, I think it was just enough. But I mean, there's actual details here. So, I mean, that's what's really amazing. Now, I think they did port those details to Hong Kong. So it is very, very interesting. The next one I have is Discovery Bay. Discovery Bay was a proposed theme park in Disneyland. The concept was first introduced in the mid-1970s as an expansion to the park. The land was set in the late 19th century. It featured a Victorian seaside village filled with attractions based on inventions and scientific discoveries of the era. So you see a lot of Jules Verne stuff going on here from what it looks like. And, it sounds like it was pretty highly anticipated. The project was canceled in the early 1980s due to budget constraints and a shift in focus to other planned expansions for the park. Many of the ideas and concepts were used later in some of the overseas parks, including the Mystic Manor attraction at Hong Kong Disneyland. Man, it looks like Hong Kong got a lot of the canceled stuff for that sounded cool from us, you know?
We got a lot of good stuff. Yeah, you can see they had the the whole model built and everything for it. It's
wow.
amazing.
Isn't that cool? Yeah,
they really went far on it. And again, this looks like a really good one too. Like
again, another concept that Disneyland was going to get, and Disneyland really, they kind of got screwed, didn't they? I mean, with some of this stuff. It's a shame. They had some cool concepts for Disneyland.
Yeah, so pretty. Yeah, that's what I mean. A place built in that Jules Verne style. Sorry, that never gets out of style. Like
timeless.
100 years from now, that's going to be just beautiful. And again, like you said, it's timeless. So.
Yeah.
And there's a train coming out. It's like really, really cool.
Yeah. All right. Well,
but what characters in there? I don't see any.
Yeah, I
don't know.
Moana
could be on this mountain, maybe.
Well, that might have been a later addition to it. Who knows?
Bob Iger would say no to every one of these.
He would.
What current movie and how much money does it make on merchandising?
Yeah.
Not enough.
That's right. All right, let's move on to the thing that is probably my favorite, the canceled attractions and rides. And this is the thing that most people really jump in the aisles for, right? So, so the first one I have is one that isn't modern. It was the Museum of the Weird. This was actually on a Disney Plus show recently. This was talked about. The Disneyland Museum of the Weird was a proposed attraction for Disneyland in Anaheim that was never built. The concept was developed by Raleigh Crump, a Disney Imagineer who worked on projects as Enchanted Tiki Room and Haunted Mansion. This actually came up, I believe, while Raleigh Crump was working on the Haunted Mansion. Walt Disney knew that he kind of had some weird mannerisms. And as I recall the story, Raleigh and one of the Imagineers weren't exactly seeing eye to eye on some stuff. So they both brought some competing ideas to Walt, and Walt liked all the ideas. So, as I recall, he actually wanted to do both.
Yeah, I thought too that initially that this is what the Haunted Mansion was going to be. Like it was going to be a walkthrough, and it was going to be the Museum of the Weird was like the first concept for
that. Was his original concept, right? And so that's exactly, you have a picture up of it. It was a museum of weird artifacts, again, a walkthrough attraction. It was located in the area that now houses the New Orleans Squares. It was to have a collection of oddities, curiosities, and supernatural artifacts. These items were things such as a shrunken head, a unicorn, and a talking chair. The project was shelved in the late 1960s as Walt Disney's attention shifted to other projects, including the development of Walt Disney World. So it does say here in my research that many of the concepts and designs were used and integrated into Disneyland's Haunted Mansion. So definitely, it wasn't something that was just thrown away. And some of the concepts were really cool. And that show on Disney Plus, I don't remember if it was the Imagineering story or which one it was. I don't think it was that one. It was, they had a different show on with like little kind of half-hour shows and stuff. And I believe they talked about this in one of those episodes. And I can't remember what that was called, but might have been like the Magic of Imagineering or something like that. I don't remember. But anyways, Raleigh Crump, man, weird dude. I love it, man. I wish they would have done something like that. I would love to see that.
Yeah, it looks good. But like I always think, though, that eventually we got the Haunted Mansion. So
yeah, and Haunted Mansion, it to me is way Awesome. But this would have been a cool like after show or something like that for Haunted Mansion or pre-show, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Like make it the queue. That
Yeah.
would have been perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, this one is one. This concept kind of gave birth to this entire podcast, right? That's the Main Street Theater at Walt Disney World. That's something that you and I talk about, something that you've talked about many times. The Walt Disney World Main Street Theater was announced July 14th, 2017 at the D23 Expo. It was supposed to be a new theater located on Main Street, USA in Magic Kingdom Park. This particular theater was, of course, met with great fanfare, and people like ran in the streets and ran up and down the aisles and was like, "Oh, this is going to be great" and all that. And guess what?
Yep. And I had recently moved to Florida, like when this announcement came out, and I remember thinking before I moved to Florida, I went to Broadway, and I think the last show I saw before I moved was Wicked, and I enjoyed Broadway theater. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
I would go at least once a year typically. And I was like, wow, a Broadway caliber large theater at the Magic Kingdom that they're going to have top notch shows at. I'm like, you know what it made me think of? I think at the time, was it Aladdin at Disneyland was really
Yeah.
popular. Everybody
Mm.
loved it. Everybody said it's as good as any Broadway show. I was like, wow, they're going to bring that to Walt Disney World. That's going to be amazing. And I never really heard the announcement that they got rid of it. They just kind of stopped talking about it, and they
Yeah.
do that a lot. They quietly are just like, "Oh, that's been canceled." It's like,
They did announce it in February, and this is how short the concept was. They announced it in July of 2017. In February of 2018, you know, not even a year later, Disney announced that it was canceling the project due to budget constraints, of course.
yeah, in 2018. Wow.
2018. So yeah, I mean, I think it was like it wasn't a big fanfare announcement. It was quiet, and it, you know, I'm not sure where it was announced at, but there was a press release, and I remember that press release. So I was pretty disappointed. I thought it would have been cool to see some like Broadway shows there in the
Yeah, yeah,
in
it
Magic
feels
Kingdom.
like something like that would is sorely missing from Magic Kingdom. I couldn't
Right.
believe they found a place to put it. I was like, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
They could use the capacity. You could use the sitting down and enjoying something like that. Like, I just feel like it was a perfect fit. So,
Yeah. Totally agree.
but that's a lot of entertainment to pay.
Yeah, that's true too. That's probably actually why they canceled it. It
Yeah,
was, you
you're
know,
not getting great actors to be in these plays for free. That's for sure.
I feel like it's a missed opportunity though. That would have been great.
I think so too. I think they could have found some really talented people who wanted to get their start and prove how good they were. Looks
Hmm.
great on their resume. It doesn't have to be somebody who already, you know, is Broadway caliber. Just it would have required a lot of auditions. That's all. One out of thousands. You're gonna be like, found
Yeah,
one, get them, But
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think it would have been a big addition to Magic Kingdom, and I would have watched shows in there.
oh yeah,
All right, the next one is this is one that's current in the news, so I won't go, you know, get too crazy about it. But the Quinjet ride at Avengers Campus in Disneyland. This thing looked really cool, John. Um, it is so called currently on hold. It's not on hold, it's canceled. It was originally scheduled to open in 2020 as part of the Avengers Campus expansion, but was delayed, quote, due to the pandemic, unquote. In March 2022, Disney CEO at the time, Bob Chapek, announced that the attraction would be delayed indefinitely due to financial constraints. In other words, canceled. The attraction was really highly anticipated by fans. I mean, all the concepts and everything looked pretty cool. What they were going to do, it was going to be a little bit different from some other stuff.
I'm not a big Marvel guy, but to me, this looks like it'd be the coolest thing in the Marvel area out at Disneyland. So, and again, I've never been there, but I've seen lots of videos, and for the most part, I'm not that into Marvel that, I don't care about seeing Spider-Man get flung and flipped around, get thrown over buildings. It's all right. But this looks really interesting now. It's a very complex, futuristic building. So it's something I would like. Even this looks like something that would be good, even if you're not a Marvel fan necessarily, because it's just an amazing place. So.
Right. Well, it says that it would have allowed guests to board a life-size Quinjet and embark on an interactive adventure with the Avengers. Hearing that, and it's based on the cinematic films, the MCU films, but hearing that, it kind of reminds me that maybe some of that technology was already invented in, Rise of Resistance, something like that. So it might have been a little more extreme than that, but it sounds like the technology was there. They just didn't want to put the money into it. So a shame. Once again, Disneylanders, you guys got screwed, and I'm sorry, but that's not going to end yet in our podcast, because you're about to get it again. And this is one that I didn't remember. Like, I don't remember hearing about this one. The Tron Light Cycle Power Run roller coaster for Disneyland. The Tron roller coaster was supposed to be built in Disneyland. It was announced in 2010. So this thing was supposed to open in 2013. They were going to start the announcement, like I said, in 2010. They were going to open in 2013. It was delayed multiple times and eventually canceled in 2017. And then, as we know later, around that time, they decided to build it in Walt Disney World instead. So as you see up there on the screen, that was given to Disney World. Sorry, Disneylanders. But I got to tell you probably would have been disappointed anyways.
I like it, but
I like it, but it's edition by edition. But it's a minute-long ride, so,
Yeah.
I don't know. You kind of got some cool, you at least got one really cool roller coaster there, maybe two if you count Space Mountain. So, I don't know. They have Big Thunder Mountain as well, and they have what's the ride they have with the bobsleds and the Yeti,
Yeah,
Matterhorn. I mean, that's pretty cool. Now I want to fly out there and ride that Matterhorn now.
Yeah, and they have Spider-Man that flops over buildings.
Oh, he flops over. They just pitch him out, throw him over the building, and he just, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get into how Walt Disney World's getting screwed over. Epcot's Play Pavilion. So the attraction was announced at D23 in 2019. It was described as a digital metropolis that would have allowed guests to interact with a variety of characters from Disney and Pixar films. It had hands-on activities, interactive exhibits, and here comes the key word that Disney uses: immersive experiences designed to entertain and educate guests of all ages. And there were a bunch of planned things that were gamed out for this area, John. But again, I mean, I don't know how great it would have been, but again, it would have opened that pavilion up. That thing was originally opened in 1982. It's been closed for a long time. The last thing that was in there was like Body Wars and all that kind of stuff, those interactive things. So they were going to bring back all the interactive stuff. What were you saying?
I would have been happy. I would have been happy just to go in there. So just to be able to go back into the pavilion, because look how cool that concept art. Like, imagine an entire new pavilion at Epcot. It's like, well, it's been sitting there unused for so long that, like, people like my daughter's age would think, oh, they never existed. There's never been anything there. It's like, because their whole life, there's nothing there. So,
Yeah, it's just a
and again, it
dome.
might not have been the greatest. It looks cool enough, though. And again,
Yeah.
I make that comment a lot. I say, just finish Epcot, please. When they start saying, we're going to change this and add this, and let's get rid of Dino Land and add Moana to Animal Kingdom. I'm like, just finish Epcot, please. Just stop looking at other stuff and finish Epcot. It's
I mean, this thing, yeah. This was part of Epcot. I mean, who doesn't want something else added to Epcot? I mean, do you not want to make Epcot a 2-day park? I mean, again, because right now you can pretty much get through most stuff in one day. I mean, Epcot used to be a 2-day park, so
and think of all the characters they would have put in there. All the IP would have been filled with IP.
Filled with it. The whole thing was based on, they're talking about a water balloon game, some puzzles that are interactive, some kind of hotel heist game, an exhibit with the characters from Zootopia, an area dedicated to Incredibles. I mean, an Epcot, a non-IP park, they were putting these, and they just decided to not do it. So, all right. The next thing is related to this, and that is the Epcot Festival Center. This was supposed to be a new multi-level festival space that would have hosted a variety of events through the years. It was to be in the World Celebration area of the park, right in the center, in front or behind, depending on your perspective, Spaceship Earth. And honestly, John, let me tell you what I feel about this, because I know you probably thought this was a cool concept. Most people, I think, do. I didn't really care about this because it was just another monetization. It was another opportunity for them to monetize something. I think that the show was designed, the new show was designed to use this as a viewing platform. This was designed for a viewing platform for that new show, and they were going to use it to squeeze a little bit more, another dollar out of you. Now, I do think the design is cool. I think it's great with those plants on top and all that kind of stuff, but most people weren't even going to get access to this unless you bought a cupcake party, right?
Yeah, probably, but I just wanted it because, like, look at that concept art. That looks
it is like cool.
That looks like the original Epcot stuff. So yeah, I wanted it just because of that. So for me, this was the only announcement I was actually excited about. I was like, I don't really want you doing any of the other stuff, but I was like, this looks pretty amazing though. If they actually make it look like that, that reminds me of Walt Disney's Epcot sketches that he always would refer back to. Like, like picture a bunch of people in suits walking around down here. That's like Walt's Epcot idea, the futuristic.
So I think that's what it was. A lot of people love the design aesthetic, and that's what they really pined for. But I just looked at it with my statement. I just looked at it a little deeper as to why they were designing it, what they were going to do with it. But,
Well, I feel like they'd let you in during the day at least, so you could look around. But I'm sure at night it's going to be a party for only,
cupcake parties. Yeah.
Only the 10 wealthiest people in Florida.
Yeah. Well, Trump would be up there with his homies kicking it, I guess, right?
I'm sure he ain't allowed there.
Okay.
Although, you know what's funny though? Speaking of that, and I don't think I ever brought this up to you before. Remember back when he was actually president, and he got like he wanted to get business people from around the country together to talk about how they can improve things.
Yeah, he had Iger sitting on that council.
Bob Iger jumped to be on that, and he was excited and all for it. And then everyone said, "You can't do that. He's evil." And he went, "Oh yeah, he is. I hate him." And he walked away. And I was like, "Man, he was all about that, like literally have the ear of the guy running the country and be all about business." It's like,
and the optics look bad.
Yeah, yeah, just weird. Again, I don't know what made me think when you said Trump would be up there. That made me
Mm.
think of Iger and Trump when they were friends for that little bit of time.
All right. The next thing is we're gonna leave this modern stuff a little bit and move on to something else, which you probably won't find too many drawings for this or too many pictures, John, but there were a number of Epcot country pavilions that were canceled over the years or were announced or rumored that never happened. But a lot of these were actually announced and canceled. I have 4 of them listed. I'm sure there were a few more, but I have Spain, Russia, Venezuela, and Israel. Now, the Russian pavilion was really interesting because there were like rides associated with that. There were 2 attractions that they were going to make. And this was during the end of the Cold War era. So that's why that one got canceled. Russia just ran out of money with the fall of the Berlin Wall and everything, and the fall with Glasnost and all that stuff. The Cold War was over, and Russia fell into a desperate state money wise. Venezuela was similar in that they just couldn't afford, after some instability politically, they just couldn't afford to do anything with it. But Israel was canceled just because of the controversy around doing an Israeli, the political controversy behind doing an Israeli pavilion. And Spain just didn't apparently want to fork up the money for their pavilion. But they were interesting too. Like Spain had a whole concept mapped out, like restaurants and attractions and movie, like a movie thing, like an IMAX thing. That really was something. What they had announced. Um, that those are the countries that could have been, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. There's a lot of countries that almost were built, but again, it's just amazing that after all those years, they still just won't do any. And yeah, here's the announcement coming. Equatorial Africa, which is there. It's not much to it, I guess. But if that's all they were talking about, there is a little tiny section there. But that's not Equatorial Africa. That's just an outpost. So neither of these were ever done. Like Israel, Spain, Africa. It's like
announced.
I know why in Africa they did it. Yeah, they did an Africa section in Animal Kingdom, so that's okay. But the other ones, though, it's amazing how far they went, that they had it all. Yeah, see, there's the Africa. It's all set up.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
it's just a food stand now.
Yeah, that's basically it. All right, so I think those would have been great additions. A lot of those pads are sitting empty currently. So, they could add anything if they wanted to. They could add countries at any point in time, but I don't think they're going to do that anytime soon. So, all right. So that's those. The last one for attractions, which is one that was, there was some news recently about. The Mary Poppins attraction at Epcot's UK pavilion. It was announced in 2019, but was canceled in 2020 due to the quote pandemic unquote. And I don't put the quotes in because that's the excuse they use to cancel it. The attraction was supposed to be a spinning teacup style ride located in the UK Pavilion and World Showcase. It would have featured scenes from the classic Disney film Mary Poppins, as well as new scenes created specifically for the attraction. However, looking at the concepts of this, it looked like it might have been closer to the new film, Mary Poppins Returns, but I'm not sure about that exactly.
I don't know the new film, but
oh, you don't, yeah, I've seen it actually. It's cute, but
I'll give you $20 not to see it.
Oh yeah. Well, in any case, Mary Poppins, the attraction was canceled. So, again, not happening. All right, and I have one last section, John, and and then we'll wrap this up. But the only thing I have as far as a canceled thing, what's left, the original Epcot concept. Walt Disney's original Epcot concept was for an experimental prototype city of tomorrow. The city would have been designed to showcase the latest in technology and urban planning and would have featured innovative transportation systems, community services, and environmental sustainability measures. Walt's vision of Epcot was as a real-world application of the futuristic ideas and ideals he saw as the promise of the future. So that was canceled, and we got a theme park instead of a city. What do you think, John?
Yeah, it's just as good. Just as good.
Yeah.
I think it was sad that Walt Disney died, and he was absolutely obsessed with Epcot. And again, you could do 100 podcasts on the Epcot that was supposed to be. Like, they were so far on this thing. And they even said when Roy went and visited him in the hospital, all he would talk about is Epcot. He was looking at the ceiling, talking about what needs to happen, where things are going to go. Like, he was so involved in what Epcot was going to be, which a real working city, like the city of the future. And again, after Walt's death, they just said, "Oh, we can't do this." And I'm not surprised. It literally would have took somebody like him to make it happen. So,
yeah, I totally agree. You can see this concept. It's named Progress City on the People Mover, right?
yep.
So as you go through, that Space Mountain area, or no, before the Space Mountain area, right? Is that where it's at? But
it's before the Space Mountain, just after you see Cinderella Castle is on your left, and then you go, and then you can see the full scale model, which I think is the real model in there. I don't think they would have rebuilt it.
No, I think it is. Yeah,
they just put it in there, so it's literally the full scale model of Epcot is in there. And yeah, it's just amazing. Like, I don't know for certain, but it looks like it could have worked to me. I don't know. I'm no expert, but heck. And again, when Walt passed away, they said, "How would we make money on this?" And it's like, Walt didn't care about money. He wanted to change the world.
He was a futurist. It was a concept.
He was a huge futurist. And again, extracting money from the people was an annoying necessity to continue his work. It wasn't what he was all about. So again, but the rest of the company is. So they're like, how would you make money on a city? Well, you don't really make money on it, but you could change the whole world. And it's like, make money. That's where it's at.
Yeah. So that particular that Epcot thing, we'll do a podcast in the future on that whole thing. We're definitely so that's going to be in the works at some point. So and probably soon. All right, so I would say in conclusion, listen and watch announcements with a skeptical eye. Not all announcements become reality. Not all announcements should become reality. The company often takes advantage of built-in events like recent times. I won't mention it. But to avoid doing expensive concepts, they use things as excuses to peel back from doing things,
Yep. And a great example is they made the announcement that Epcot, the renovation of Epcot's the biggest project they've ever done at Disney World. It's going to be there. And then again, I know something happened and they had to closed down for a little bit and stuff, but they're back to record profits now. It's still in shambles. The entire middle's just like gutted. And yet they're going on to other things. They're like, they don't care about finishing that now. It's like, if it was important in any way to you, it would be delayed, not just canceled. They'd be like, well, we had a disruption, so we'll just cancel that. But hey, what's behind Big Thunder Mountain? Hey, let's talk about what we're gonna do at Animal Kingdom. Hey, Splash Mountain needs to be changed right this second, no matter what our financial situation. It's like, what about fixing Epcot? You broke it and said you're gonna make it better. Then you walked away and said, "Ooh, look, Splash Mountain. Let's get that." It's like,
yeah, I mean, priorities here.
Yeah, again, I like to think of Disney executives as a group of 5-year-olds that need a parent to come along and go, hey, focus, back. Yeah. You didn't finish this yet. No playing with Splash Mountain until you finish your Epcot. It's like, they'd be like, we're bored of that. It's too much. It's too hard. I'm going to go do something else. It's like, nope, you tore it apart, you finish it. It's like, nah, I'm bored of it.
Yeah.
Do something. Who cares about Epcot?
I would say my last point in conclusion to this is that, Imagineering isn't perfect. They have successes and failures like anyone. A lot of times the fan base always acts like they're the greatest, but there's eras, there's peaks and valleys in Imagineering over the years, They have very creative people like Joe Rohde. Then they don't, which right now they don't have Joe Rohde. They have people like Raleigh Crump and people like the original Imagineers, the Five Old Men, and people like that, They have those types of creatives, and then they don't. They die or they retire or they leave the company. And then you have a period, like a down period. I kind of think we're in a period like that right now, John. So I think we're in a creative glut right now at the Disney company. Imagineering isn't always at fault, but and when something disappoints or isn't done, a lot of times it's the people, like you said, the 5-year-olds in the room, the executives or the accountants. But it's just, that this is what we've just discussed. This is the accountants do the canceling. So,
well, and they get involved in the planning too, because just like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, the fact that there's no animatronics to maintain is a huge plus. So again, they're not only looking at making the ride, they're looking at what does it cost to maintain, what does it cost to fix, to upkeep, like how much. They don't want too much to have to paint, to have to clean, to have to mechanically upkeep. There's just a lot to it, and again, that's why rides go in a certain direction. So it's not as exciting as the old ones. And again, the Imagineers, if you said do what you want, they might make the best, coolest ride ever, but they're going to get in trouble if it costs a lot to maintain. So
I agree. Yeah, very, very true. All right, John, final thoughts, and then let us know where we can find you online.
My final thought is don't get overly excited when Disney tells you what the next big announcement is. Even if they say, oh yeah, it's definitely going to happen, there's a lot that doesn't, and we only touched on it. Like, there's so much more that was announced and talked about that never ever happened. So again, just don't get overly excited. You can be happy they announced something, but it's better to wait until things go a little further than that to get overly excited. So, and you can find me at SeeWDW on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, SeeWDW on Instagram and Facebook. And I think that's it.
All right. And you can find me at The Giant Rat, THE Giant Rat on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. And that should do it for this one. We will see you on the next one.